All right, welcome everybody. This is the Christopher Kelly Leadership Development Program 2020-2021 info session. This is the Detroit section of that program. My name is Lauren Myrand. I am the Executive Director of AIA Detroit, and I am excited to welcome you all here. I am going to pass it off to the CKLDP co-chairs in just a bit, but I wanted to just set a few house rules and just ask that everybody keeps themselves muted until the Q&A session, which will take place after a short presentation from our co-chairs. And while I've got your attention, what I'd love to do is I would actually like all of you to fill out a quick poll that I just launched, because we just want to get an understanding of who is on the call right now. And I also wanted to let you all know that this is being live streamed to Facebook potentially, and it's being recorded. So keep smiling, everybody. If you want to turn your camera off, that's perfectly acceptable. I just figured it would be nice to see everybody's faces. So I've got 4 out of 15 people that have answered the poll so far. Share results. So it looks like we've still got a majority of people from Southwest Michigan, a couple people from the west side of the state. Thank you for joining us. Good range of firm sizes. We are always happy to see that. And even though we've got a few people that are in the more than 5 years of experience in the profession, that doesn't scare us at all. We are happy to welcome those that feel like they belong in the Christopher Kelly Leadership Development Program. All right. So with that, I am going to shut my big mouth and mute my microphone and hand it off to our beautiful co-chairs, Shanita Rutland and Nicole Giroux. Shanita, take it away.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the info session. This is actually very encouraging to see the number of people who are interested in the program and wanting to know more about it and hopefully become candidates for the program. So I'm going to share my screen to start the presentation, and we'll do a slight introduction of myself and Nicole, just to give you a little bit of background of how we were in the program. We are actually, our program is in this will be our 4th year, but Nicole and I are a part of the original inaugural cohort. So not only were we scholars at one point, but now we're also co-chairs of the program. So we have a viewpoint of how the program runs from a scholar's perspective, as well as how it runs from the back end. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get going. Of course, now that I want to do it. Okay. So that's just the first one. Okay. So Nicole, since I've already started to talk, would you like to go ahead and do your introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nicole Giroux, for those of you who don't know me. Shanita and I'm sorry if you said the Shanita, but the inaugural year, 3 years ago. And since then, we've stayed passionate about the program, and this past year, I've been co-chairs.
Uh-oh, Nicole, I think we're having some connectivity issues. Can
passionate
you,
about the profession, Nicole? I need to have those conversations.
Nicole, can you hear us?
Yeah, you froze.
You froze? So can you wind back and maybe speak a little bit louder, because you're breaking up a little bit. This was all working just before y'all got on, folks. So actually, what I will ask is actually, while these guys are presenting, if anyone has their camera on, if they can turn it off, that might be one of the reasons why there is lag. I just realized that. Sorry, everybody. We'll see your beautiful faces during the Q&A. All right, go ahead, Nicole.
No. Nicole?
Oh no.
Okay, well, while Nicole's still going or getting there, I'll just continue, I guess. So again, at least my perspective of the CKLTP program and why I joined the program. I was a part of the 2008 kind of recession, so it was kind of difficult for me to get back into the profession. And I literally was going through two kind of full-time jobs. I was teaching, and then I was also working in architecture at the same time. But when I was teaching during the nighttime and then working during the day, I had very limited networking opportunities. So when I decided to go full-time back into architecture, my mentor had came across the program and said that this was something that might help me get back into the industry as well as move forward and it kind of advance in the leadership format of the office structure. So I took the advice. I went to the info session 3 years ago. I was selected to be a part of the program. And since being a part of this program, definitely has opened up a wide scope of information for me. I am a mid-level professional. I've been working in the industry for 15 years. Of that time, I have definitely excelled. And since being in this program, I have definitely gone from someone who has kind of just been in the crowd to someone who kind of steps to the front row, if you will, and starts to lead the conversation as well as leading the organization. And this is one of the things that I stepped up to. It was an opportunity I was given, and I said yes. And it has been a good experience the entire time that I've been a part, not only as a scholar, but also leading the process. I'm someone who loves puzzles. And so kind of figuring out the nuances of how to kind of make things work better and become better over time. This is kind of one of the things that has helped me in this program professionally, as well as building my network, continuously building that foundation of leadership, and also exposing me to a lot of different areas within the profession that typically I would have never gotten experience on because you kind of start as an intern at the table, just kind of working on drawings, but there's a whole nother life and a whole nother world before you can get a project, working with developers, having those conversations with tons of different people. So this program has definitely opened my eyes to a lot of those different areas, as well as the people within the industry. All the speakers who come in, they still allow themselves to be available to continue those conversations. So that was one of the reasons and the benefits of my participation in the program. And Nicole, if you're ready.
Sorry about that. When everybody's on the internet, apparently it goes bad. So I don't know what you heard, but I basically got involved with this program so I can have those conversations outside. And as Shanita had said, since getting involved, it's really opened my eyes to the different types of work that we do in this field and what actually falls under the umbrella of the architecture profession. I personally believe that it's important to have those conversations outside the office in order to stay passionate and to continue to be forward thinking as a whole. That's really all I have to say about myself and CKLDP. Let's, I guess, learn more about the program as a whole and how all these people can join and get involved and be a part of the conversation.
Awesome. So just to give you a general gist of kind of the program and the structure and kind of a little bit of its inception, we will be sharing a link to the video that was posted in 2008 at the AIA Grassroots Conference. At that conference, the originating chapter, which is AIA Washington, DC, this is also where Christopher Kelly was from at the time before his passing, and a lot of his co-workers and colleagues and friends also in that general area. So when he passed away, they took a lot of what he was doing in the industry, and the structure of this program is what he was currently doing as an individual, working with the Young Architects Forum and also the Emerging Professionals Committee in that general area. And they decided to take what he was doing from there and develop it into a program that would be beneficial to emerging professionals. And since that time, which is, this slide needs to be updated, it's actually now, this will be our 8th year as we're moving forward. There are 8 chapters across the country. There are some other chapters that are starting to have conversations about starting, specifically the ones in California, I think a couple maybe in Seattle as well. And a little bit about how we kind of established ourselves and why we're kind of going statewide. So at the 2018 conference, our current AIA Michigan president and our then AIA Detroit president, that being Kim Montague was our Detroit president and Norm Hammond was is our AIA Michigan president. They attended that conference and they saw the video, as well as they were able to interact with the scholars who received the award. And they were just kind of amazed at the synergy that was created amongst those scholars. And they said that this was something that they wanted to have, or at least Norm said it was something that he kind of wanted to have on the west side of the state. But I think Kim kind of let him know, like, we already kind of have the program. So instead of kind of dividing resources, let's combine the resources. Let's show that we can utilize this program all across Michigan. And last year was kind of a soft launch, if you will. We did kind of advertise to some of the other states outside of Michigan. And for this year, we were able to get one of the scholars who applied and was accepted to the program was from Grand Rapids. So I know we're going to talk about COVID, but some of the conversations associated with COVID we had already been thinking about because of the nuances of traveling across the state, having scholars do that, and how can we prepare ourselves in the event that they're snowed in? How can we make sure that they don't lose content? So now that we do happen to have COVID, it's kind of sped that up a little bit more, and so that we can kind of execute. But having the program go statewide would be beneficial, and for not only all the scholars, but also for the inter chapter collaborations and partnerships that we are creating with the chapters across the state of Michigan. Nicole, do you want to chime in on the scholars?
So since we started in the Detroit, we have 32 alum and then 16 current scholars. As Shanita mentioned, we're still dealing with COVID. So we're working on our current class and graduating very soon here. So we have a total of, we'll have 48 scholars total. And that's just in 3 years. So the great thing about the way this program is if you're in this scholarship program, you can move up into leadership the following year and then become a co-chair as well. So it's a self-ran program year after year. So these are all of our scholars that we've had throughout the years. So some of these people you may recognize, some of these people you may not. A lot of people actually I hadn't met because they came from out of state and moved to Detroit. So it's been a very beneficial program.
Yeah, this network is just amazing with all the different people that have been a part of the program. They come with a variety of experience. Some are acting as directors of small firms. Some are plus or minus 5 years. Some have plus or minus 10 years of experience, such as myself. So the variety is there. And the reason why we have that variety is because during that 2008 period of time, there was literally a section of architects that moved on to other professions because they couldn't get work into architecture. So we lost almost a generation of leadership. And so you have this gap in that time frame. So we create that kind of mentorship within our program as well, so that people who have more experience versus those who are just kind of starting, they can also network and mentor each other, learn from each other, whatever their level of experience is. So who are scholars? Typically, people tend to think that this is just an architectural-based program, even though the roots are from architecture. I like to think of it as more of the symphony of architecture. All of the different disciplines that kind of work together to make projects and architecture just work. So we've actually opened up the platform to not just designers and architects. We've had engineers, structural engineers, we've had landscape designers, we've had a full array of people. So it's not just limited to architecture. And I don't think that we would want to just limit the conversation to architecture, because we deal with all these different disciplines. And it would be good for us as a leadership program to be able to understand from different perspectives of how to completely facilitate workload and other issues that we may have while we're facilitating projects. So where do we begin? The first step, once you start with a CKLDP program, it's structured to have 9 sessions. And the first session is boot camp. And this is where literally everything, this is actually one of the required sessions to host. And keep in mind, the way that I'm talking about the program is what we have done in the past and a little bit of what we're going to be doing with COVID in mind. So how do we begin? We start with boot camp. It is probably one of the first and important sessions. It's where the scholars, this is a scholar-led program. So as co-chairs, Nicole and I, we act as, we help drive the conversation, we help guide the conversation, but we are not dictators. So as a collective, the 16 people who are selected in the program, you guys actually create your curriculum for the year based off of the eight session topics. But what I want to stress about boot camp, as you're defining your curriculum, we want you to make sure that you are challenging your scholars, and we want to make sure that you are being challenged as well. And that basically means if you feel that there are more things that need to be discussed in topics, these are the platforms where you can speak up and discuss these elements. This is really a safe place to be able to hash out all of these different conversations. But also very important is your resources. What you are bringing to the table are resources in terms of people that you have met that could add to the conversations. We're talking about conferences that you may have attended, speakers that you've heard, all of these things that you would say, wow, this is really, really great. I wish that person can come in and talk to our group. These are resources that would help define and start to create that curriculum to move toward what the structure of each session could look like. At the end of the day, even though these are all great ideas and we try to leave all the ideas on the table, we will go through a revising or refining section so that you can outline and get specific things that you need for your session. Nicole, do you want to add anything to the boot camp? I'm sorry, there's like people texting me. But no? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide then. So here are the general scholar-led topics. You can read them for yourself. I'm not going to go directly into what each one of the topics are. And the reason being, they're very broad topics and they're broad for a reason. This was the structure that was laid out from original DC, and which is also in all the other states that the program is led in. The reason why they're broad is that from year to year, the content is diverse and it changes. So I couldn't tell you what we did during the first year would be the same as what we did during the second year, and it's not the same as what we did during the third year. The reason why you have boot camp is that you get together, and if any particular scholar is interested in any particular topic, they kind of come in again with their resources, people that they know, presenters that can really speak on these particular topics, and you really drive that conversation. And every single session, again, from year to year in the last 3 years is completely different because the scholars, they have their own concepts of what that particular topic is, as well as the speakers who make that diversified conversation. Um, Now here's the work. So out of the 8 session topics, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Out of the 8 session topics, the 16 groups of people are going to be divided into 2 teams. I'm sorry, 2 teams, 16 divided by 2, 8 groups, 2 partners. And this is basically the work structure. So the first thing would be is you will be acting as a session leader. So what this means is out of that 8 lists of structure, once you are a candidate, we send out a survey, which is a matrix where you get to evaluate from what you want to learn more about or kind of work in to what you least kind of are in favor of. We kind of work through that matrix. We pair you up with your other scholar, and then you guys are responsible for leading the session. You're not responsible for presenting the information. You're just responsible for hosting the event by gathering the speakers who will speak on the topic based off of not only boot camp information, but also between the 2 scholars kind of narrowing down that content. So you'll be researching a little bit more. You will be adding more resources. You will be interviewing speakers. Interviewing speakers is extremely important because you're not just asking speakers to come in to give the same presentation that they may have given at different locations. You're really asking them to speak towards the curriculum that you guys have decided, not only as the 16, but also as the 2-pair team. The next component would be seeking a venue. The venue, again, this is pre-COVID, as more venues are starting to open up. Is someone telling me to look at, okay, this is just, okay. As more restrictions are being lifted and people can gather into different locations, we will have some venues. We are working with some partners to find larger spaces and venues where we can host events. So those partnerships, it's a little on you as we move forward, but on the back end, that would be the co-chairs kind of finding at least initial locations where it'll be safe to meet if we can meet and what are the restrictions for meeting. The next one is fundraising for your session. This is always one of those topics where they're like, oh, you have to raise more funds. So I will say what the funds are actually used for. So as we said, we're moving across the state. So we do stay overnight. We had a successful overnight stay in Grand Rapids where our scholar was the host. So funds that we're using, that we are fundraising, they go to certain things like that. We also have administration fees for things that need to be printed, things that are being run for on the online side. Patty put together a wonderful video as an intro to the CKLTP. So all those things kind of have a cost. Also, sometimes speakers, they have a cost associated with that as well. And then sometimes there are venue costs. We have been very lucky to have speakers who have donated their time. We've also had venues that have donated their time. We've also fundraised as well to pay for food. One of the important elements is lunch, and that kind of goes down to the time frame of the session, which goes from 12 to 6. Some people did ask us, why would we keep 12 to 6? That being 12 to 1 o'clock is the lunchtime, and then from 5 to 6 would be the happy hour. Well, there are some people who can't attend the session or the happy hour because they have other obligations. They need to go home to their children and whatnot. So the only time that they can actually physically be in the same space with their scholars to discuss their session is during that lunchtime, as well as to network with the other scholars. So we want to definitely try to keep that in whatever capacity we can. Now, does it mean that we're still ordering food? It might be a brown bag. It might be boxed lunches. We will work on those decisions as we continue to move forward and what that looks like in the light of COVID. And then there's 1 to 4, which is 1 to 5, which is the time frame for the actual session. Nicole, do you want to chime in?
I know fundraising can sound a bit like, wow, I have a lot that I have to fundraise for. Just looking at the averages, the minimum that you're asked to fundraise for a session is about $500. And then you are asked to cover any costs. We do have overhead and some wiggle room with that, but I know that that is sometimes a hindrance when it comes to this. And we're here to help and reach out to whoever we can, and however we can help. That's what the co-chairs are here for, is to help you guys plan these sessions.
Yes. That's why we have the 2 planning sessions with the co-chairs, just to kind of vet some of these things out and to assist you with those little nuances. The last component is the session report. My dog is barking. So.
So for the session report, what you're asked to do is record, take notes, and if you look at the CKLDP website, you'll see all of the session reports, and we can link that here too, so it's easy for you to access. And basically it provides an overview of what happened throughout the day. So you'll be teamed up with your partner to record the whole session, take notes and photos, and then pull together this report. It's really only about 2 to 3 pages, just a high-level overview so we can help promote the program and let everybody know what we did all day, and that we didn't just get out of work and hang out, even though sometimes that's what it feels like. In a good way, productive way. Do you want to go to the next slide, unless there's something else? I think you covered it.
So some questions came about in terms of what is the fee for the program. Again, some of the fee structure is, again, AIA members, it's a $450 fee for the tuition. For non-members, it's $500. Again, those funds help with the organization of boot camp. They'll also help with being able to assist you guys when you have, when you're kind of a little bit behind on speakers. To give you a good example, for one of the sessions that actually happened a couple of months ago in, I believe it was February, we had a speaker who came from Boston, and we actually played the quote unquote game, if you will, of closing the deal of the contract and negotiation. So they gave us a fee, we negotiated the fee, we went back, and then the scholars had to figure out, well, how do we get this person here? Are we going to charge for an airplane fee? A lot of that's kind of going back and forth and really kind of understanding what that is. And so when they came up a little bit short, the offer was there to provide them a little bit to go over so that they could get the speaker who was going to come in to speak. So some of the funds, again, we utilize those funds to do that. Now, in light of COVID, go ahead.
And that goes back to it being a self-ran program as well. So
yes. Yeah, we're independent, if you will, from AIA Detroit. Although Lauren, she does invoicings and things of that nature, but everything that we do, we should be able to do independently. That might look a little different this year because of COVID. So we might not necessarily have the same financial range that we want to, because to be honest, a lot of our sponsors, whether or not it's going to conferences, all those things have been shut down. So we may not be able to go to the same avenue streams of being able to fundraise. This year, we might have to be creative. We were actually on a call with all the chapters across the country, and that was one of the bigger questions. How are we going to fundraise? Is this something that we will be able to achieve? Everybody felt that we would still be able to successfully run the program, even if we run a little bit on a smaller budget than we would have on a larger budget. But that just means being creative with engaging speakers. And now that we have this platform of having webinars and whatnot, we may be able to get, instead of flying somebody from California or Texas, we could engage them a little bit through a web-based program. And as well as kind of that, once again, that mixed media presentation. We can have maybe a little bit of web stuff, but at the same token, we can have some physical people be able to be in the room and to engage with the scholars for the program. So being that we know that COVID has existed and everybody has different situations happening, whether or not, unfortunately, some people were furloughed, some people may have switched jobs, whatever the case may be, we are offering tuition assistance. It is on a case-by-case basis. And within that, we will evaluate, once you become a scholar, this form is attached to the additional information. And so if you do happen to have a circumstance where you're like, I can't do the full pay that you're asking for, then you would write down the response. We'll look at it, we'll evaluate it, and then we'll give you our response from there. The second component, and Lauren may be able to add to this, I just know from my personal experience that because we're kind of closer to the end of the year with when our program starts, literally everybody has run out of money towards the end of the year. However, during the next year, people do kind of fill up their financial marketing assets, if you will, or their fees that they can provide to some of their employees. So that might be an opportunity. Lauren can speak on that if we are able to kind of hold invoicing maybe past January a little bit, but obviously before the end of the program, if finances is an issue.
Sure.
So
yeah. So Shanita, I'll just chime in really quickly. Yes. So when you pay your tuition is flexible within the scope of the program, and I don't want to linger on that because I don't want anybody to hesitate to apply for this program because they're concerned about finances. Apply for this program, and if you are considered a worthy candidate for this program, we will make this work, okay? So don't stress about this component at all. Don't stress about the fundraising component. We recognize that this year will be a challenge in regards to money overall, and we are going to be here to work with you and support you.
Thank you. I think the last slide that we have is basically talking about COVID and the effects of COVID with the program. So as more and more restrictions are being lifted, I would say maybe a month ago, we were still kind of figuring out how does this affect the program. We weren't able to meet at all. And so now groups are able to meet in more and more capacities. We're still watching what that means. We will follow the CDC guidelines for what that means for meeting in the groups. It might be situations where the scholars are wearing masks, the presenters can present from a distance, and we're in that lecture style setup. I know that I've gone to job sites recently, bid walkthroughs. We've maintained those kind of social distancing measures. We will also follow the guidelines provided by the venues. So if they have specific guidelines for like wiping down tables and things of that nature, we will just make sure that we follow those guidelines because of all things, we want to make sure that your health and your safety is taken care of. We definitely do not want anybody in the program to get sick, and we want to make sure that you are able to still participate in the program. So we will try to keep surfaces clean. We will try to have a quote unquote CKLDP COVID kit that will have wipes, maybe a few additional masks for anybody who may have left a mask or doesn't have a mask, have hand sanitizers. We will do our best to not share pretty much anything. That also includes computers. If we need to have a clicker for presentations, we will provide the clicker, maybe have a couple of clickers so that we can wipe those things down. In the event that you can't attend, we are working on, again, that mixed media presentation, whether or not it's a web-based presentation where we would like to have a lot of people to attend, but if you can't, then it's those people who are at the session and then maybe a few people web-based. Again, we do not want you to do anything that you're uncomfortable with. So we will work with you. We are flexible in that instance. We will discourage anyone who is sick to not attend. So if you do happen to have a cold or fever, out of respect for the rest of the scholars, we'd ask you to remain at home. We will provide you with the necessary links to participate in the program. Some of these things that I'm talking about right now, we will also discuss again at boot camp, and we will come to an agreement, a collective agreement as to how we will proceed and what people are comfortable with. So that is all I have for the presentation, and we are open.
All right,
to
Shanita,
questions.
if you can stop sharing your screen and we can all turn our cameras back on.
Yes.
So I would welcome attendees to turn their cameras back on as well. I know we still have some questions from the RSVPs that I'd like to get to, but while we're on the COVID-19 topic, Shanita sort of talked about the basics of as far as the protocols for what we will be doing going forward. But we recognize that this is an ever-changing situation, and so it's probably going to be a month-by-month analysis as far as what the next session is going to be like. But like she said, we're not going to force anybody into a situation that they're uncomfortable. So if a half the group is comfortable meeting, but the other half of the group is not comfortable meeting, we do have the capability of doing these mixed sessions where there will be in-person gatherings and then people that are tuning in via our Zoom web link. And we've already discussed different ways that we can host little breakout sessions with people tuning in virtually versus, you know, the whole collective of the whole cohort being together as well. So I wouldn't necessarily look at this as COVID-19 as an obstacle that we have to overcome, but I definitely think that it's an opportunity for us to be creative with how we approach this program. We're committed to making it happen and making it the most beneficial that it could possibly be for you guys, no matter what the circumstances are. So I don't want anyone to stress about that going into this, because we're going to figure out a solution that works for everybody that is part of the final 16. So cannot start video because it's stopped by host. Oh, Prita, let me ask to start video. There you go, Prita, you should be good now. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have some questions that are just basic about the program and the application itself that I want to just cover quickly. Is a Gmail account required to upload your application? Nope. Nope, it's just it's a Google form that you will open on a browser and you will upload your files, and no Gmail is required.
I do have something to say about the email. So this is extremely important because this actually happened to me. If possible, please do not use your firm email address, because if you happen to leave your firm, we put everybody in kind of a group email. And so if you leave that firm or whatever the case may be, we will not be able to contact you. So if you don't mind sharing your personal email, that would be fine. We do not send tons of stuff. We only send things that are specifically related to the program or your session. So please provide a personal email versus an office.
Great point.
And that is definitely from experience of our co-chairs. So thank you for that, Shanita. Another technical question, is the program for people born in Michigan, or is it open to people living, working in the state? This program is for people working and living in the state. So of course,
you don't have to be born in Michigan, just working and living in the state.
No, and we've actually had some scholars who have been born in other countries that have participated in the program, and their experiences and their perspectives are just further enrich the diversity and the context of what you guys are learning from and who with.
We've even had scholars move halfway through the program because they got an opportunity that they just couldn't turn down. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually traveled back and forth from San Francisco, and I had no idea that they
I didn't either.
That every month for like half the session or half the
year.
So.
It was crazy. Their firm had to, I remember that, their firm had to commit to sending that scholar back every session.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So a couple other questions for Shanita and Nicole. Are there any specific any specific topics or things that the recommendation letter should address or focus on?
I would say definitely find someone who kind of understands who you are. I would steer away from maybe someone who's just going to put a generic letter that may be copied from person to person, even though you might not know that. But there are some things that people know personally about you, personal experiences that they can actually speak on. we literally look at everything. We have a jury of people who kind of go through and kind of comb through. So the more sincerity that you can put into your letter, as well as the essay questions, those are all kind of weighed during the jury process.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that and steer clear from anybody from a university that you didn't directly work with, to be more specific. So.
And I would like to add, because you have the opportunity to submit up to 3 letters, is to make sure that they're not letters all from the same source.
Yeah.
Some people submit only 1 letter of recommendation, and I think sometimes that's a missed opportunity, because the letters of recommendation allow us to see aspects of you that might not be able to be showcased in your resume or your essay responses. And so these are other people's perspectives on your capabilities as a leader and a creative individual, and we really enjoy reading them. So I would do your best to tap into the network that you have and have had to find a couple very different perspectives that would be willing to write genuine recommendation letters.
For sure.
Someone also asked, what can we do better to prepare for the program before starting? It's a good question.
It is. And we are working towards that. We will definitely, once we have the candidates prepared, we will have a document for you guys, because we want you to come to boot camp prepared so that you can fully engage with that brainstorming session, add to all of the conversations for all of the sessions. So we will have, again, a document ready. We won't specifically tell you at that time what your topic is, because we don't want you to just focus in on that topic. We want you to be able to contribute to all the topics, but we will be able to guide you on what to look for once we start boot camp.
And Shanita, tell me if you covered this and I can just stop dead in the tracks, but you will, once you are selected, you will get a list of all of the topics and you can rank them. So you won't be stuck with something that you definitely don't want to speak about or plan for.
Yes.
So you'll be able to rank which ones you want. So you'll know like your top 3 is
Yes.
usually what we like to place people with. I think last year, maybe only 1 person got their 3rd choice and they were fine with it.
I think also that the person though was asking, like, what can they do outside of the assignments that they can prepare for. So on the CKLDP Detroit website, we actually have the session reports from previous cohorts for every session. And I think that it would be worthwhile to go and check those out and read through them. I would also recommend looking at some of the other CKLDP chapters around the country, like DC, Georgia, Colorado, because they all have session recaps as well. And so you can actually see how scholars from different parts of the country are handling their sessions and their takes on their sessions, because someone from the West Coast is going to have a very different perspective on the future of the practice than someone from the Midwest.
Yes.
And so you can gain a lot by just doing some research into some of the other CKLDP information that's out there through the other chapters. And they might even have listed in their recaps some speakers that
Yes.
you might want to potentially contact and use for your own session.
So
Sure.
Lisa asked a question, which I think is great, was the level of engagement with Scholar alumni. Do they join the sessions or help guide the sessions? And do we have access to their presentations? The last one, access to their presentations, definitely go check out the website and read their overviews. If there was something that you were more interested in, let us know. You can send us an email at ckldp@aia.org.com, I think.
CKLDP@aiadetroit.com.
Detroit.com. And for alumni engagement, we ask alumni to come to boot camp to help with the breakout sessions and how to set up the planning for the sessions that you're going to be planning. As far as throughout the year, they're invited to the happy hours. They're invited to sit in if they would like to. Shanita, if you had anything else to add to that specifically.
Yeah, we do encourage the alumni. We are trying to build more of the alumni network since we have a lot more people a part of the program. Again, as Nicole said, we do invite them to come to boot camp to give their kind of lessons learned on what they went through for the program. But we also try to invite them to the other sessions. Everybody's schedule is a little bit different, but we have had some success with alumni coming in, and we're trying to build on that even more now. And we're going to try to start that a little bit more with the last group as well as the fourth year.
So I think all of our attendees are able to unmute themselves at will. If not, let me know. If anybody wants to ask a question that has come up, we definitely have some time left, and we're going to stay on as long as necessary to make sure that everything is clear. If anyone has any questions about the application process or the program itself, we're ready. Either that or Shanita and Nicole just did a fantastic job and you guys got no questions left. That's also possible.
Maybe like high five, Brady Bunch style.
So there's, I mean, I don't know if we want to just go through some of the chat questions that we have here.
That's kind of what we've been covering as they've come in. So
I think we've covered most of them. Let us know if we haven't.
So yeah.
And I went through the pre-submitted questions.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there's some that kind of came in at the end. Like I'm just picking up on one here. Are the 9 sessions on Friday? Yes. Traditionally, they have been the first Friday of each month. However, once again, as things kind of evolve, we will adapt to that particular session. For instance, we're hosting our 7th session this Friday, which is a feature of the practice. So again, we will be able to gauge and do our own lessons learned on what an entire session looks like online. Yeah. And we will be able to bring that to boot camp to let you know what we learned, what worked, what doesn't work, and how we can improve it to become better. Is there anything else? Anybody else want to chime in? Because there's a lot of things that I'm looking at and I may not be able to read fast enough to be able to respond to a question. So if anybody wants to speak up we haven't covered something, definitely please do so. Please do not be shy. We are not shy in this program.
No.
We are all leaders. That's why we're here.
Sarah, did you want to say something?
Yes, I'm afraid it's a little bit of a dumb question, but I know
there are no dumb questions.
No dumb questions. No dumb questions.
Hayward and I are actually both from the Kalamazoo area. So hi, Hayward. But I was wondering, just based on this, and I'm sorry if it was clear and I missed it, but every, say, first Friday of the month, we're going to be traveling to Detroit and meeting somewhere in a class style?
It wouldn't necessarily be Detroit.
Right.
Shanita, I'll let you speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of planning. So once we kind of know who the scholars are, and this is what we went through last year, we didn't know who the scholars are, so we didn't necessarily know how to plan where we were going. But once we knew that Jade was coming, which is a scholar from Grand Rapids, we kind of looked at the map. We found the midpoint, which happened to be mid-Michigan and Lansing. And so we kind of timed it so that Jay didn't have to always come to Metro Detroit every single session. We went to Lansing, and we also hosted again in Grand Rapids. So if you are from Kalamazoo, our goal, our tentative plan, we were going to go to Kalamazoo this year, but COVID happened, so we had to postpone that. But we do tentatively plan, not necessarily within this calendar time to the end of December, but maybe closer to 2021. We don't know if that's January or February. That's something that we can work out during boot camp, but we are tentatively planning to go to Kalamazoo because we have support from the Southwest chapter. So we are not saying you have to always come to the Metro Detroit. We will work out a plan so that we kind of split it up a little bit so you're not burdening having to drive back and forth all the time.
One of the opportunities of this being a statewide program is that we will be intentional in an ideal condition and only as far as it is safe, be traveling to other cities across the state to broaden your network and your opportunities in more than just the typical area that you are local to. So it is, if we can get people over to Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, maybe even try for Traverse City, Flint, or Saginaw this year, those are opportunities that we're going to take, and we're going to do that time and time again, because as the global economy continues to happen, it's just more beneficial for you guys to step outside your comfort zones and potentially plan sessions in areas that you might not be familiar with, and then go and see your success happen in real time. So don't be afraid of that. We're here to help you support you.
And one thing that we tried to do this year was the people who, so Jade was our scholar from Grand Rapids, was to have her session hosted in Grand Rapids. So it does alleviate a little bit of that pressure too, for anybody who's not going to be in that area.
But she was partnered with somebody from Metro Detroit, and so the need for communication and coordination was very necessary for that session. And that will be true for anybody that if you're partnered with somebody that you don't live near. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 has opened all of our eyes to the beautiful thing of web conferencing. So we definitely have platforms available, if you don't have any of your own, that you can utilize to help plan your sessions with your scholar from another area.
For sure.
Can you talk a little bit more about what happens in the 4-hour-long session?
That's completely based off of your team. I can say that I can talk about platforms on how people have approached developing their platform. Again, there's like that instructional kind of platform where you have a speaker who speaks. There could be breakout sessions. You could be a panel discussion. It really depends on how you want to structure that. We do have examples that you can follow, but if you say, hey, this is my playbook, I'm going to invite 4 people to come in, 2 people are going to do a panel discussion, then one person is going to do their own kind of lecture, and then we're going to finalize with another person. All of that's based on A, your topic, B, what these presenters are comfortable with. If they want to kind of come in and do a panel discussion, that's really the development that you provide, and also guidance in the structure of your session.
Okay, thank you.
You can also take it in a different perspective as well. This past December, our community engagement session had a volunteer neighborhood cleanup
Yes.
project that was in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, so it wasn't in the 4 hours, but it was to help the scholars sort of get rooted in the idea of engaging with the community where their session actually took place. So it's not, you don't have to think of your 4-hour session as a typical stingy conference that you're traveling to for business purposes. You can bring in folks that are exciting and have different ways of engaging the scholars, and that's totally acceptable and encouraged.
Okay.
I will also
thank
say this also happened in Atlanta. Atlanta let me know that there was a particular session that was just something that all the scholars said this would be really great. So they attended that conference in lieu of their session. And so that might be something that if collectively you guys agree, instead of bringing in those speakers, that you could participate in that too. Granted, we don't know where conferences are going today, but that's also something that has also occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with burning questions?
If
No?
you didn't want to speak up here, that's totally okay. There's no judgment at all. You can feel free to email us, so we can answer them as you have questions as well.
Yes.
Shanita and Nicole and Patty and I are all responsive to that CKLDP email address. And so if you guys have any questions as you're going through the application process, please feel free to just contact us and we will get back with you. And if we need to schedule a phone call with you to help answer your questions as you go into it, we're more than willing to do so.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that this was a wonderful conversation, guys, and we really appreciate your questions that you submitted ahead of time. Shanita, Nicole, if you guys have anything else that you want to share before we exit.
No, I'm just looking forward to the candidates and their packets and moving forward with what I believe is going to be another successful year.
I see a strong group
looking
of people
forward to
here.
it.
Creative, but successful year.
It's going to be a good year, guys. Well, we really appreciate you joining us. We hope that you all continue to stay safe and have a good rest of your evening. And we look forward to seeing your applications that are due July 7th. Okay? All right, everybody. Take
Thank you.
care.
Take care. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.